Good morning, Joanne.
Hey, how are you?
Good. It's a little cold out there, isn't it?
It is, but I thought it'd be fun to do a virtual field trip for advocacy today.
Oh,
Just
are you
something a
on the
little
green?
different. Yeah,
Oh,
I figured I'd make people guess.
oh.
A little something different, right?
Yeah, that's fun.
So, pretty good news that the date is available.
Yes, that is.
And so I figured today what we would do is after updates, depending on who's on the call, we can brainstorm ideas and then in between fill out the form and get a sense of cost and things like that.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Morning, Mackenzie. How are you?
Morning, everyone. Happy December.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. Mackenzie, you're on the data call, the New Hampshire data call, right?
I am. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Um, did the meeting go on much longer after the person kind of stopped talking about his experience with surveys?
Let me look at my notes real quick. I don't think so, but I'm going to pull them up just because I did some traveling this past week and it makes my brain feel fuzzy.
I get it. I left after the point of where people were asking if there were copies, and he said he had moved and copies would have been paper. He wasn't sure what he could retrieve.
I don't think so. I don't think it went on any longer than that, Joanne.
Okay.
Looks like the
Well,
last that I wrote in my notes was that if you wanted a 90% response rate, you need to double the budget. So I think,
yeah.
yeah,
The point about determining cost of living is actually going to cost
yeah,
to do the survey well.
yeah,
It's kind of one of the endpoints that I took from that meeting.
exactly.
Do you know how much money they received in their grant to
You know,
do?
we could look at the old RFP.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Just trying
No,
to.
that's okay.
Okay.
It's probably good information for me to have.
I just wasn't sure because when they were talking about costs, and then they were talking about, people who would actually go to a center or a home-based program, kind of knock on the door with the survey. New Hampshire's a big state, a lot of rural areas to try to get that done. I don't know if people answer paper copies anymore.
The RFP for 2023 is only $50,000.
Ah,
So I don't know how far back I can I'll look at some closed RFPs and see what it was in the past.
I mean, that's quite a bit. It's also just making me think about what they're trying to accomplish and their own staff time and cost to do this work too. So
You know what? I can't see them on their web closed opportunities because they only go back to 2022, and that process is every 2 or 3 years.
okay, all right, that's fine.
I
Just
think he would tell us if we wanted, if we asked. I don't think we ever explicitly asked.
okay.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how best to help that group other than to kind of listen, and it seems that shorter the survey the better. So actually figuring out what the group is trying to glean, like what's the most important information, and the theme seems to be really relevant next step. And I'm not sure what the Couch Foundation is doing in regard to their survey work. So I do plan to catch up with Sarah Vecchiotti. I think it's like the second week in January. And last time I spoke with her, they had put in for grants, hadn't received grants yet, and were respectively quiet because I guess you're not really supposed to say anything until the grant's actually awarded. So I wasn't quite sure where they were heading, but hopefully they'll know more in January. They have talked a lot about true cost and connecting with UNH and other major research places. So what I just don't want to happen, if possible, are people working on the same project, duplicative surveys, if they're seeking the same information or if they're doing something different, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think that is fair. And I have also heard similar rumblings about UNH and data, but I don't think that work is at this point, like the RFP for the next market rate survey is already up. And I can't imagine, I don't know who's applying for it because it didn't seem like Michael was even aware, and it doesn't seem like he really, it does seem like he's pulled away from it quite a bit. And frankly, he's done it every year for the past, whatever he said, like a long time. And so the RFP is due back to the department by the 23rd of December.
Okay.
And so a couple of things, like things that I am just telling you what's in my brain so that maybe you can help me formulate a plan. But the department, as a part of the Senate Bill 237, there was language in that bill that allows them to look at a true cost of care model for reimbursement. And so those are two things that I feel like they're in conflict with each other, and I'm not sure what the next step is. We've got this RFP out for the market rate survey, but then we've also told the department we should be moving more towards this true cost of care model.
Yep.
And so I don't know, the unknowns to me are who would have even apply for this RFP to conduct a survey. And if it doesn't happen, what happens then? I would think it would be the role of the data group to inform whoever is chosen for the RFP on the things that we've kind of learned from Michael about the length and the types of questions and the response rate that we're looking for.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it would be up to us or to UNH's data kind of collaborative to like conduct that survey. But what happens if no one does it?
That's that silo thing that's consistently happening. And I went to a forum in Claremont Monday, and I think it was Monday. And the focus of that forum was early childhood education. It was the small business, it's an alliance, SBA. And I don't know if it's alliance or not, but I'm going to call it that. And so they had a panel. They had the superintendent of schools from Claremont there, and they had this person whose name was Steve, and his last name starts with F. I want to say Foreman, could be wrong, trying to picture it. And he works somehow through the state department, and I've never heard of him before. And he himself was an ECE provider and has a lot of experience. And I was talking about all the ECEA work. He was talking about micro grants. And after the meeting, he emailed me yesterday and said, "Hi, I would love to catch up. And are you familiar with a resource that he sent that I want to look into? But I would love to catch up with him because I don't know who he is." And there's a lot of talk about a group that is called the Alliance. And they are looking at big ideas in ECE. Are you familiar with the Alliance?
I think so. Yeah. Is that the Alliance for Early Success?
I'm not quite sure because all their documentation at the top says the Alliance. It was something that Amy Brooks sent to me. And I'm thinking, wow, this is yet another group that's focusing on ECE. Not sure who they're partnering with or connecting with. and we're circling around a bit, I think. So one of my goals for January is to try to make some more phone and email contacts and just let people know who I am, and maybe try to create some kind of diagram of who's who and what they do. And we did start that. If you remember, we had a web, like a page where we had all the links to all the different organizations on it. Do you remember that one, Anna? We had a Vermont and New Hampshire one.
Was
And I
that
started,
before me?
no, I think it was during when you were here.
Okay.
It was, I started off because I was trying to learn who the executive council was in New Hampshire, and there's two like executive councils for children, like two different, their names are similar, but they do different things. And then, and it starts off with that, and there's links, and then I gave links to scan, links to, I think Moms Rising was on it. There's all New Hampshire one, and then there's a Vermont one. And if you can't find it, let me know and I'll find it. But I do think there's a lot happening. Everyone's working hard, but it's not necessarily a collective effort. And I think for advocacy, that's really important.
I think I just popped in the chat the link for the alliance that you might be thinking of. Is that Sarah Fox's group? Do you know Sarah Fox?
I know the name. How would I know her name? What are they through, Mackenzie?
She runs the Alliance of Early Childhood Coalition. So she basically is like, it's almost like a director network. She's the convener of the director networks.
Oh, okay. All right, and that's where Amy Brooks would have made the connection and shared that report with me, perhaps.
I think, and actually, I think Amy's on now, so she could probably confirm.
Hi, Amy. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I have to do like an emergency, pay someone and ship it emergency. So I'm going to do that. But yes, that's where I got it from Sarah Fox and the Alliance.
Okay, thank you. You gotta love our lives. Like we're just always doing 10 things at once.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the reason I'm outside today, besides it's just a nice winter day, is we are thinking about holding the Week of the Young Child celebration here on the Lebanon Green. So I'm on the Lebanon Green. I'm going to do a circle, putting my phone out. So if people aren't familiar with the green, you can kind of get a sense. So I'm going to walk toward the center. And right now, the structure that you see in front of me, because it's a water feature, is boarded up, but usually there's a nice water feature there. Currently, hopefully you can see they have a little holiday decorations and things like that happening in one section. There's benches all around. Currently, the right in front of me, City Hall. And as we kind of turn the loop, this is where we could potentially have a band or something playing. And there's a little small kid-friendly place. You can see some families there right now with their little ones. And then if I walk around, there's the fire department over in that corner. And then it swings back around toward South Hill Pub and through Tomatoes and then back to City Hall. So our thinking was to hold a kickoff event on that Saturday, maybe for 2 hours, have vendors, music, kids games, and maybe a walkathon, but the walkathon is not going to be super long. K2 gave us the concept that for everyone early childhood educator, 10 children are supported. So perhaps 10 loops around this green, and there's a sidewalk. So it is accessible for anyone who would want to participate. And I also like that idea because it's safe for parents with little ones with strollers who might want to walk around. We could set up some tents and have early childcare providers each have maybe a table or something like that. Maybe Sean or the city, so the mayor of Lebanon is Tim McNamara. Maybe Tim or Sean could read the week of the child proclamation that they send to city council, and it just kind of have a nice celebration of ECE. So I was wondering people's thoughts about it. I have the form to fill out to kind of book the space. And then over the next 2 months, we can really start pulling it all together because it's going to come pretty quickly. And for those who hadn't seen it, just wanted to walk around and actually physically be on the site and wondered what people's thoughts are.
Thank you for the tour. It looks beautiful. I haven't been there in person, but it looks very quintessential New Hampshire village, which I really love.
And Anna said that she has some friends who play in a band that might be able to provide music for us, which would be really cool on the stage here. And I'll make a connection to K2 and the ECE organization. They have a group, and I don't know the title of their committee, and they wanted to do something like Chad's Huge Walk, and they have a full-time events planner to do that. We thought we would start
And
off
a whole
small.
office, not just an events planner. They have a whole office staff of people who put that together. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought small, simple, community-based, face painting, fun little easy carnival games for kids, food vendors. I love our artisans in the local community. So, maybe an opportunity for them to, celebrate spring, share their wares, make that connection. And I really wanted to make it about the children. And if we could get families here with kids having a good time in the green, maybe get some press from the Valley News or other places, it might be a nice way for vital communities to support ECE.
You might be able to get the hospital to get involved with like car seat checks and bicycle helmet stuff. Kathy
Cool.
Stocker would be a key contact person on that, but that would fit in with this really well. The only thing I've heard you say that I'm kind of going like, that doesn't sound right was when K2 was saying that one person equals 10 kids. That sounds too high, but I think there's a way we could get some data on that.
Sure, that came from K2 and I could ask her. Another thing I was thinking about is lots of kids and adults love fire engines, and the fire department is right there. And also making a community connection because
That's super.
they could have information that Sean shares, a city manager, about the people that they're losing due to childcare. And he specifically mentioned firefighters and others who are key to keeping people safe in the Upper Valley. So had that connection, that thought too.
I'll share that a number that we use when we talk about the ripple effect of childcare is for every one provider, we typically say that's 8 families or 8 kids who receive care from that one provider as an average across the state based off of ratios. So if that's helpful.
Thanks.
Yeah, and
That feels like a better number.
And it makes the number of laps that's much shorter, because I was thinking 10 is kind of long for some people, and it's just symbolic, but it would be fun if we could do something with 8 laps. Every time they go around a different lap, a different number of laps, maybe they get a different color ribbon or wristband, just something fun, something light, not super competitive. And we also wanted to take the lift from the professionals in the field. We want to do this for the professionals in the field. So however we could manage things, organize it so that they come and it's simple and they get the appreciation that and recognition that they deserve is really our goal for the day. We're thinking of doing something from maybe 10 to 12 that gives families time to wake up and not have to feel like they're rushing to get to something, but it also has an end point where they don't have to feel like they have to stay there the entire time. And what we were thinking was, I wanted to walk around and show people the site if you haven't seen it, and share some of our early brainstorming, get your feedback. We can fill out the form, start figuring out how much tents cost and all that kind of thing. And then when we meet next, which would be the second Friday in January, we can let you know what steps we've been able to take, even though it's the holiday season, because April's gonna be right around the corner. So would love to hear your thoughts and ideas and suggestions about this concept. Is it something that advocacy wants us to move forward with?
If this is something that would energize and feel supportive to providers, would feel like it was really bringing the whole community into thinking about and valuing providers, I would be all for it. And I'm recognizing, having in phases of my life had responsibility for making things like this happen, I know just how much work it is, and would want to figure out, what my specific piece would be to be supportive of you, Joanne, because inevitably you would end up being the pivot point for this enterprise. And so with those acknowledgements, questions, and commitment, I would say yes. But I think that we've got to be sure, first, that it would feel that way. Second, that people understand a commitment that they would need to be able to make to help with it, and go from there.
That makes sense. And I see it as Anna, myself, and K2 as being a team. K2 being the connection with the providers, bringing it back to her network group who wanted to do something huge like the Chad Walkathon and say, we're going to take a little bite. We want to do it so it doesn't become too complicated and stressful. Let's start here. So I see this as a Venn diagram. I can make connections. Anna's great at also doing that. And, we can assign each other tasks for follow-up. So I already contacted Sean, and Beth sent us the forms we have to fill out. Didn't want to fill them out until I came to advocacy first. And it looks like the date and the time is available. So that was check number 1. Making sure there was a venue for music. That's here too. I know from living in the community, food vendors, farmers markets. It's a spot that people gather as
I
a
was gonna say,
community.
this is the place. People are always, they see something going on in the green, they come and they stop, they spend time. And at that time of year, it's early enough that it would be one of the earlier things going on there. I mean, like there is the Shamrock Shuffle for St. Patrick's Day in
Yep.
March, but then there tends to be a gap before more things happen. And people see it as a place to go and be involved. So everything about that part of it rang positively for me. And Tammy put something in the chat about in Vermont, she has Local Motion come to an event, free and reduced helmets for kids, and they take the time to fit them properly. And does New Hampshire have the equivalent? I think that's what I was thinking about was actually through DHMC. They have the bike safety and helmet program there. And I don't know if there's another community one, Tammy, beyond that one, but I do know that one. So you're adding Local Motion. I mean, so we have two anyway then. Yeah, Amy is saying it's injury prevention at DH. That's what it is. That's the program I'm talking about.
Excellent. And we could do a little bike rodeo. Kids could bring their bikes. We could decorate their bike. They could decorate their bike. That's that empowerment piece that kids love while they're getting helmets checked and things like that.
Vital Communities has a bike rodeo kit. I could ask one of our
Yeah.
transportation team members if they want to host that.
Love it. So I think the ideas are there. I think we're coming from the right place. We started last year just trying to do things with signage and found that was really hard. I don't know. I can't guarantee it'll be the perfect event, but I think it's a great way to kick it off small, to learn from it, to maybe grow over time. I think at this point it's doable. We're starting this in December, not in February or March. So it gives us time to organize it. I feel really happy with the team of K2 and Anna, myself, and others to pull this off. And yeah, that was kind of my goal for our advocacy meeting today, because this would be a really great event to celebrate. I think celebration of professionals is really important. And I was mentioning, Sarah, that I went to the Claremont meeting, the SBA meeting, made a connection with a person named Steve, and there was a special education teacher and a professional in the field who runs a program in Claremont. I didn't catch her name, but some nice connections with their advocacy for ECE, their similar struggles in their community. But it was another nice networking opportunity, and Steve and I are going to catch up after December and kind of so I can learn a little bit more about what he does and see how that goes. So great. So we will move ahead with this. Mackenzie, in regard to Moms Rising work, any new updates as far as legislation work that we should know about or anything like that?
Yes, there are updates. As of the last couple of days, the LSRs, the legislative service requests that we get at the beginning of the legislative session, have started turning into actual bills where you can read the bill language and see who all the sponsors are. Not all of them, but many of them. There are quite a few bills related to childcare. And I know for a fact that there are still some bills in the Senate that are confidential. And I believe there is a pre-K bill that is confidential right now that I still don't have the details for, but I think you all have access to my spreadsheet. If you don't, I'm happy to share in the chat. I think, there's a few things about ratios. There's some legislation around childcare workforce fund to be able to have the state actually fund childcare, and that fund would be used to give mini grants to childcare centers. There are bills around allowing childcare providers to buy into the state's insurance, the state employees insurance program.
Oh, wow.
There is bills around categorical eligibility for childcare providers. So that means that you would, as a childcare provider, be automatically eligible for the highest reimbursement childcare scholarship for your own children. And there's another bill that would prioritize your childcare scholarship application if you were a childcare provider. So there's a few qualifying sort of statuses that move you to the front of the line, including homelessness. So I think, that could be an interesting interaction to see childcare providers have access to the scholarship based off of being a childcare provider, and then seeing those applications move to the front of the line. That could be interesting to see that unfold. I'm just looking really quickly. There is one bill around, it's a child care tax credit program. And so the way I understand it is it's a tax credit for businesses who are offsetting the cost of childcare for some of their employees. Looks interesting to me. And yeah, I mean, in terms of childcare, that's kind of, I think that's the whole of it. But like I said, there are still some bills that are confidential, and I'm not sure when we'll have more information about those.
Thank you for that. In Claremont, I met a person and I wrote down his name in notes as well. There's a major bank in that area, and they talk about family-friendly practices. And there was a link that I was going to look into that I will share with you, Anna. So we have those because we were creating on the ECE initiative website, just that work-based, family-friendly practices. So when you mentioned that, Mackenzie, I will look into it. An idea that came up, and I don't know if it's ownership of Vital Communities, but getting the word out about scholarships and the importance in Vermont and New Hampshire of families applying for them, even though they might not meet that threshold this year, they might the next year. And I wonder, through Advocacy Group, thoughts about pushing that out, or in some ways I'm feeling that's like a bigger level than Vital Communities, but wanted to ask because it came my way.
I can share that as a part of the larger childcare package that we passed this past legislative session. There was funding to go to family resource centers to do some of the engagement about the childcare scholarship. But I was chatting with them yesterday, and they let me know that it's been, they really haven't done it yet because they've sort of been waiting for the majority of the changes to be implemented before they started doing that. And so those changes, I believe, are going to be effective January 1. And so it's not a lot of and what I've been told about the FRCs is that they got money to do this, but then have lost other funding along the way. And so it really isn't, they're not making out in the way that we hoped they would. And so I know there is a small sliver of their work where they should be doing some outreach about the changes to this childcare scholarship system, but I don't know how comprehensive it will be.
Thank you for that. So we'll just kind of keep our eye on it. And I'm glad to hear the thought of money going toward it, and for family resource centers to take the lead makes a lot of sense. So that's great. In regard to the agenda today, that was pretty much what I had, but always open for other business or topics advocacy committee members wanted to bring up today. So
Joanna, I wanted to, I just figured while we've got the time, I spoke with Lorraine Burnett at Let's Grow Kids. because she approached me and asked me to be the leader for their early childhood business collaborative, which we had been talking about with Amy the other night.
Yeah.
And Lorraine said that she suspects Let's Grow Kids would be 100% on board on trying to do a joint effort with Amy's group. If we decide that we want to pursue that.
Fantastic. So for those who to keep you in the loop, we talked about having a large group put together issues and potential solutions. And then after many conversations, we said, let's start with a small group. And then as we define the areas of focus, we can always invite people in and make it larger. So the small group was Tammy, Sunny, myself, and Amy. Unfortunately, Sunny wasn't feeling well, but hopefully she'll attend the next meeting. And one of the ideas was the concept of the business hub, meaning taking away some of this pressure for the business accounting expectations of directors and having regional consultants support to take on some of that work, such as ProCare, some of the reporting and things like that, and come at it as a unified solution. And so what the great news Tammy was just sharing is support from Let's Grow Kids to look at that kind of model in Vermont and New Hampshire to look at creating a hub if we can. And that was one of the things we talked quite a bit about as an issue with a potential solution. We also, talked about areas of what makes sense for professional development and really trying to support ECE providers where they are. What are their needs and what are their urgent needs that we can kind of get right in there and try to help. So that is great news, Tammy. Thank you for that. And I see your little one there. So sweet.
Yeah, she's got a case of pick-me-up-itis is what I call it. So she's competing with a new 3-month-old baby. So when I'm not holding the 3-month-old baby, she wants to be with me.
Oh.
So she's very calm about the whole thing, but she's very insistent that, the hands are going up for pick-me-up.
Love it. Any other business for the meeting today? Okay, so I am suggesting our next meeting date be the second Friday in January. That gives us some time to learn what we need to do for the basics of renting or using the space for the city of Lebanon. And with the holiday, a lot of people aren't going to be around. So not having my calendar in front of me as I walk around the green, what is the date of the second Friday in January?
The 12th.
Does that sound fine for everyone for us to get together again?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Excellent. All right. Well, I feel like a reporter out here in the cold, but I just wanted you guys to
You
actually
look like a
see.
reporter out there in the cold. And
Well,
we have to make special note, of your peripatetic participation in the meeting. So you are breathing and walking at the same time at that temperature.
I did not cold plunge this morning. I'm a cold plunger. So this counts as my cold plunge for the day.
Oh my goodness. We have to talk more about that, Joanne.
Okay.
Really quickly before we hop off, I did just realize one thing we didn't chat about, and I will, once I gather my thoughts around this, I'll send out an email. Joanne, maybe you can help me disperse it. Because
Sure.
there are some bills in New Hampshire from 2023 that were retained in committee that will, when session starts on January 3rd, the legislature will go through those retained bills and take actions on them. And there are two related to pre-K that I think we are going to want to send to a study commission so that some legislators and stakeholders can actually study pre-K in New Hampshire and what it could potentially look like. And so that's a very quick turnaround and a quick action that I think it would be helpful to have some stakeholder input on. So when I've just come back from traveling, but if I can gather my thoughts and get an email out to you all about what that could look like, I'll do that soon.
That sounds great. And is that something you would like pushed out to a larger audience on the listserv or amongst the advocacy committee, or where would you like that to go?
I think I'm going to end up writing an email to our larger list, and I'd be happy, to have you all share it if it's what you think is the right thing. I know with pre-K, it's challenging. I think we can all support the idea, though, of us studying it further so we can create a system that works for both providers and families and is what families want and need, and doesn't disrupt childcare. And so I think that would be fine for it to go out. It'll be family forward language, so it would be easy to share. But just something ahead of our next meeting that we, could be good to hear from providers and families.
Definitely. I'm glad that you brought that up. So thank you for that. I'll help however I can. If I don't see some of you, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year. And I will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Be well.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.